What to do, TOK people? So I was originally going to give you a different at-home assignment for the 23rd and the 24th, but I decided after looking at some of the knowledge questions, it wasn't that they were bad. I mean, it was your first go through with developing knowledge questions, and it's not easy. But I think we need to make sure we have some relative consistency in developing them. And it's not like you're gonna have to come up with them on the fly. Like you're gonna have time to think about them. But we want to make sure that we just understand and get a little more practice with them. So what I did is I pulled a couple examples from each of the articles that I saw, and at least one of them is going to be one that isn't quite a knowledge question yet, but then I'm going to fix it for you. And then the other ones are ones that are solid knowledge questions, and we'll talk about why. And then I'll talk about what your assignment is for today. So the first one was the unmade bed article, and one of the knowledge questions I saw was, to what extent is our knowledge of the unmade bed subjective? So there's a couple issues with this one. The first one is it's too specific to one real life situation. It says unmade bed in there, so it's really just talking about one real life situation. You can't directly apply that question without changing the question to other examples. So it's a little too specific. The other thing is that it's kind of it's not really referring to knowledge necessarily. Like it's kind of using knowledge as too broad of a term. So it's saying like subjective knowledge, like to what extent is knowledge of the bed subjective? So we have some kind of like subjective knowledge, a little too broad as to what that means. So what about the knowledge is actually subjective? Like the value of the unmade bed, the interpretive meaning of it. So what is like the knowledge that is subjective that you're actually talking about? Because knowledge can take on a variety of forms. So here's how I would fix this one or edit it a little bit to make it a knowledge question. So I would say, to what extent is value in the arts based off one's perspective and biases? So I did a couple things here to make this change. First thing is I drilled down a little bit into what I mean by knowledge, like what part of knowledge I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm talking about the interpreted value of it, whether that be monetarily or that be like appreciatively in terms of the art itself. And then I extended it to not just the unmade bed, but to all arts, so that entire area of knowledge. So I said value in the arts. And then I also tried to tack on, so the original person did put subjective, and I just tried to make that into a more general knowledge issue. So I said based off of perspective and biases. So in that I have, a relatively general, or not general, sorry, a little more specific terminology about what I mean when I'm talking about knowledge. I have a general AOK as opposed to one situation, and then I have a knowledge issue as well. That we can apply to multiple different situations. In fact, you might want to think about that one. Actually, that question, you can steal that if you want if you're going to do that sixth prompt about bias. That can be something you can look at. Second knowledge question was one that I actually thought was pretty solid. So it says, what role does emotion play in both the development of and response to an art piece? So you can use that in multiple different places. You could also just say in response to knowledge in the arts or something like that. But it is about knowledge and the production of knowledge, because we're developing some kind of response of some sort, which usually means like an interpretation or an idea. It's open-ended and it's general. So they included a way of knowing. You might even do a comparison of ways of knowing. So emotion versus intuition or something like that. So those are how I would, that's a good knowledge, a solid knowledge question, and then this is how we would fix that one. Moving on to the Platypus article. So one question that I came across that I thought could use some tweaking was, how does knowledge of a set animal group limit the progression of science? So there's a couple issues there. It did actually include the knowledge issue of categorizing and labeling, which is good. You want to add those, but it's not really about knowledge. Like it says, how does knowledge of a set animal group? So that's like that issue. How does it limit progression? And I'm not really sure what progression in science is. So it's not really like about how knowledge is developed. It's kind of talking more about like paradigms, I guess. So here's how I would fix this one. I said, to what extent do categories and labels improve our understanding of the natural world? And the reason I said natural world is because I don't in this case, I'm trying not to pigeonhole myself to just natural sciences. I might want to talk about how we use categories and labels to improve our understanding in sciences and use that biological example of the platypus, but then maybe also look at something in human sciences and how we categorize like mental illness or something like that, and then maybe look at history and how we categorize like time periods. So there's different ways of doing that. You want to steal that one for that categories and labels prompt, go right ahead. Just make sure you cite me. Just kidding, but not really, but maybe. Here's some ones that work as well. In what ways does professional discourse expand shared knowledge in the natural sciences? So professional discourse being like the act of people talking about knowledge and exchanging ideas and how that leads to shared knowledge. This one isn't like incredibly arguable. Like I don't know how you would argue against that, but you could in the natural sciences. And then this person put in the third one. They put in some ways of knowing. So how do faith and reasoning interact when new discoveries are made within the natural sciences? So again, it's about knowledge. It's about new discoveries and thinking about things, and then how faith and reasoning, the ways of knowing, interact, and then just an overall A-OK. So something that can be applied to multiple situations, includes tools of theory of knowledge that we can use. And then finally, the National Health Service one. So I took a couple that I think could use some tweaking because some people had some good inquiry questions, but we got to broaden them out about knowledge. So the first one that I saw was, how can we mathematically predict who will have the best healthcare out of England? So a couple things with this one. It's too specific, so it can't be generalized beyond the real life situation. So you can't really apply this specific thing, this question, to another real life situation that isn't about the healthcare of England, because it's just ingrained in the question. It is about knowledge. It's about mathematical predictions. I think it could be tightened up a little bit, but it is about knowledge, but it's just too specific. It's not general enough, and it's also it's not very open-ended. It pretty much has a cut and dry answer. Like you can talk about the way to mathematically predict it, and then you have the methodology. So it's not really a question of can we predict, it's how do we predict. Hopefully that makes sense. So here's how I fix that one. I would say, in what ways do various areas of knowledge work together in making predictions regarding inequality? So in this case, I could use the mathematical model and talk about inequality of healthcare in England, but I also could talk about how we study geography as well, and how that works into, as a human science, works into mathematics. So that's just broadening that one out. Second question that had some issues. So they said, to what extent can it be said that disparities in health service are due to purely random geographical differences? So this one, again, it's a good inquiry question. It's just too focused on this one situation within like the discipline of kind of like sociology and geography. So it's too specific, and it's not really about knowledge. It's more about a socio-political phenomenon that's going on. So looking at disparities in health service, which isn't a knowledge question, it's a question about some phenomena that's happening. So I would fix it kind of like this. And this one took me a little while because it is pretty close and it's a good inquiry question, but it took me a little while to kind of parse out how I would do this one. So I would say, to what extent can human sciences shed light on cause and effect relationships? So what I did is I took this and I said, okay, she's talking about geography, which is a human science. We can broaden that out to other human sciences. And then looking at this idea, it's a little colloquial, which I don't like. It's a little cliche saying like shed light on, but just like draw conclusions about cause and effect relationships. So really it's looking at, in this inquiry question, the original question as it was written, it's really talking about whether or not something's random or if it's being caused. So I just said, well, let's talk about that. That's a knowledge issue, cause and effect relationships. So to what extent can human sciences shed light on cause and effect relationships? Because some people would argue that like human sciences is purely a lot of it is looking at correlation and saying it's causation, but how do we actually like develop causation in human sciences? And then you can bring in a different perspective about how that's done in natural sciences and how that is done in history and how that's done maybe in the arts to an extent as well. So there's some ways to fix that one. And then my third question was somebody said was in what ways and with what implications. I think I might have changed that a little bit, but in what ways? So developing kind of like the methods, and then with what implications, which means like what can we do with that information. information. Our logic and reason apply differently in history compared to the human sciences. So again, that one I don't know. I'm not sure how it's like really drawn from that real life situation. It is a good knowledge question, but I'm not sure how it connects to the real life situation directly. But you could make some arguments about like historical developments and how people move over time, and then how you study geography, and then how you study disparities, and how reason and logic play into that. So that's how I would change some of those ones. So I'm hoping that that gives you like a good, like a better understanding or explanation of like how we go about developing these. And the thing about this is it's not easy. Like it's not easy stuff to do. You really have to do some thinking about a specific situation, drawing some questions out of that, which is a task in itself, and then really broadening it out into thinking overall about knowledge and knowledge issues. So don't freak out if you're not like an expert on it yet. It does take some time and some revision to do these things. So here's your task for today at home. I'd like you to find a real life situation about an event or issue that interests you. If you can't find one, I'll send you one, tell me. But something that interests you that's going on right now, or a concept or something. Could even be the thing you can double up and do one for Philosophy Friday too, my friends. Oh my gosh. But read it, and I want you to develop a couple things here. So first, and it's going to be all out on an assignment sheet for you, but I want you to develop a knowledge claim, a couple of knowledge claims about it. Like, what are they claiming to be true? Okay, remember, this isn't the like ones we talked about in class yesterday, like the big, broad, second tier ones. These are just things like, I think I gave you an example, like, we know that the New York Jets have the absolute worst, most god-awful offense in the entire National Football League. Okay, we know that. It's a knowledge claim. They're making that claim, and we have ways of knowing that. So just first tier ones, they don't need to be those big, broad, like, claims about overall knowledge like we were doing in class. Then I'd like you to apply 2 ways of knowing. And the reason I'm having you do these things is, 1, it's good practice, and 2, when you do this, you'll have the tools available to you to be able to start developing a knowledge question. Like, it's hard to just start off cold and just make a knowledge question. Like, if you kind of massage out some of the ways of knowing, areas of knowledge, and so forth, and that'll be more helpful for you. So apply 2 ways of knowing to the real life situation. Describe 2 areas of knowledge that could apply. There's going to probably be one that directly applies, but there are ways that you can think about more tangential areas of knowledge that apply. Explain 1 knowledge issue that could apply, and then finally at the end, write 1 knowledge question using that information. So take some of those, that you don't have to include all that stuff, but that should give you the tools to be able to develop a knowledge question. Again, good ways to start off knowledge questions are: to what extent, in what ways, with what implications, what are the methodologies for, how can we know? That's a way you can do it. That's not a great way, but you can do that. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know. The sheet will be in the assignments, at home assignments folder. It'll be posted on Teams. Also, I'm going to start accumulating some extra resources in the Teams files, just things I've come across from other websites on writing knowledge questions to kind of help give you a guide as well. All right? So take care. Thanks for all your hard work. I appreciate it. And then after you're done, take a nap or something.